Hello, my name is Carol Evans. Welcome to the Bible in Plain Sight. Tonight I am thrilled and honored to bring you the story of a sweet friend of mine named Lynn Vaught. Lynn and I became friends when we were involved at the same church years ago, and then her kids went to the school that my husband teaches at. Hey, Lynn, you're here. Be on now.
I
You
did
did it.
it.
Hey, hi, welcome, welcome, awesome. Okay, we figured this out. It's really hard to tell someone how to go live when you're not live. I wish we could like do a practice session or something with it. But anyway, thank you for hopping on and just being willing to share your story and share a little bit about who you are. So I'm just gonna hand it over to you, and I know bits and pieces of your story, but I've never really heard the full story about you. And I know you, and I know how generous you are and what a kind person you are. But I'm looking forward to hearing your story tonight. So I'll just hand it over to you and let you jump right in
Okay.
and to tell a little bit about your
Okay.
story.
Well, my name is Lynn Vaught. I was born in Vietnam. So a lot of you know about the war, but you may not know the specifics of why it happened. Well, Vietnam was divided into two different countries. You had North Vietnam, which was communist, and you
Mm-hmm.
had South Vietnam, which was not. So they were two different countries.
Mm.
And I was born in South Vietnam. I was born in December of 1975, and the war ended in April of 1975. So I don't know much about it other
Yeah.
than just from what my parents have told me. But
Mm-hmm.
after the war ended, the communists took over all of Vietnam. So Vietnam became one country, and all of it was
Mm-hmm.
communist. And so since it was communist, they wanted everyone to, be under their regime, and just they made everything
Mm-hmm.
just so difficult, and freedom, they
Mm.
took people's freedom away.
Yeah.
And from what my parents have told me, they would put people in jail, and there wasn't just it
Mm.
was just oppressive, and just didn't have much to eat, so everything just looked
Wow.
really terrible, and it just looked
Mm-hmm.
like no one would have a future, and it was a scary time. And so a
Mm.
lot of people at that time, they wanted to get out of the country to escape the communist
Yeah.
government, and really the only way at that time to do that was to escape out of the country. And
Mm-hmm.
so how that would work would be you'd have a family that would have a boat, a fishing boat, and these boats are not anything that you would think of that would be seaworthy.
Yeah.
They're most
Yeah.
of the time just, I mean, you got to think it's 40 years ago. No, yes.
Right.
So a long time ago.
Yeah.
And this is in a third world country too. So
Mm-hmm.
these wooden boats were, you know, wooden. They were old. They didn't have all the technology. And of
Yeah.
course, back then we didn't have the internet or anything like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of just based the weather on, okay, this time of year is usually it's calm, but you just were taking a chance. So
Wow.
these families with the big fishing boats, when I say big, um, they would kind of by word of mouth would tell other people, okay, we're planning an escape on this date. If you
Wow.
want to join us, you need to give us money. And I talked to my family in Vietnam when I went back there to visit not too long
Mm-hmm.
ago, and the price was about $500 per person, which doesn't sound like a lot here, but you think
But then,
40 years ago
yeah.
and in
Yes.
Vietnam, that I don't know what the
Yes.
equivalent of that would be. So a lot of people think, oh, you're poor, that's why you left the country, but you actually
Mhm.
had to have money to
Yeah.
do that. But my
Wow.
so you would give them the money. Of course, this is all word of mouth, and
Yeah.
it had to be hush hush, because if the government found out, they would arrest you. So I'm the oldest of, well, at the time, my mom was, so this is 1984, so I was 8 years
Okay.
old. And we came from a pretty well-to-do family. We were
Mm-hmm.
probably upper middle class. My
Mm-hmm.
dad had a factory that made tires over in Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
and so anyway, I was the oldest of four at the time. My mom was pregnant with my
Mm-hmm.
littlest brother, so I was eight. And then the reason why they chose me to escape was because I was the oldest. It was too
Mm-hmm.
dangerous for the others.
Yeah.
And so my dad had a business partner, and he was also my dad's best friend. His name was Cam, and he
Mm-hmm.
lived with us. So he was like family. But
Yeah.
Cam had tried to escape Vietnam several times, and he got caught. But he was
Yeah.
determined to get out of the country. And at that time, it looked like the only way to have any kind of freedom was to get out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So he convinced my parents, like, she's not going to have a future if she lives here, you know. So they all discussed it, and they agreed that I would be the one to go with Cam. It
Wow.
was a very, it was scary. I mean, we didn't know if
Mm-hmm.
we were going to get, kidnapped or the
Yeah.
weather. It was just, you literally are risking your lives. And so, my parents, of course, you could imagine how hard that was on both of my parents,
I
but,
can't
but
even
especially
imagine.
my mom. I
Yeah.
mean, now that I'm a
Oh,
mom,
yeah.
I can't even imagine what circumstances it would have to be for me to let
Yeah.
my 8-year-old
Yeah.
child go.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'm not in that situation, so I
Right.
could never understand it. But I
Mm-hmm.
know it was all the Lord's will.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to let me go with them, with Cam. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I guess a few months before we left, he they put me in swimming lessons.
Mm-hmm.
It's not common over there for kids to know how to swim. It's
Yeah.
not a leisure thing. So I remember them putting me in swimming lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids that were taking swimming lessons were teasing me, saying, "Are you getting ready to escape or something?" And I remember that. And so, I took swimming lessons for.
But when did you realize that that was the plan,
Um,
though? Like as a kid, like when did you know?
I mean, I think people talked about people doing that, and I also heard my
Mm-hmm.
parents and Cam talking
Yeah.
about it. So I knew what we were doing, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go. I mean, I was
Yeah.
little, and the only thing I was afraid of were really, I guess, being a child it was a blessing, and didn't
Yeah.
understand all the dangers. And so
Yeah.
the only thing I was scared of was, getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
That truly was the only thing I
Of
was scared of.
course.
So, anyways, the purpose of the swimming lesson was in case the boat capsized or something, I would at
Yeah.
least know how to swim.
Wow.
So we did that, and then I just remember waking up, my uncle waking me up middle of the night. When I say I'm uncle, I'm talking about Cam. He
Mm-hmm.
woke me up middle of the night, and he said, my parents, everyone was asleep, so it was just me and him. We were getting ready. It was quiet, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember us leaving, and I didn't see my mom and dad or anybody. It was just he and I, which I thought was kind of strange that I didn't get
Yeah.
to see my parents, but I just did what I was told.
Yeah.
So we took this is middle of the night. So we got
Mm-hmm.
into a little rickshaw, and it
Mm-hmm.
took us to this area where there was a bay, an inlet, and the point of that would be you get into a little John boat, and then that boat would then take you to another area where the bigger fishing boat would be. And so we got in there in the boat, and we started to go for a little bit, and then the weather got really bad. So we ran out of gas, and I can still remember the waves just making it really hard for the person who was taking us in the boat to put gas in there.
Wow.
So we ended up turning around, came home, and I don't remember how much time passed, but that boat that we were supposed to get on, that one, we got word that it ended up sinking. So,
Oh, wow.
that was the Lord, protecting
Yeah.
us. So,
Saving your life.
so like I said, I don't know how much time passed between that
Mm-hmm.
one attempt and then the next one. But the next attempt we
Mm-hmm.
went, same thing, but this time we actually got on the little John boat, and then we did go to the part of the sea nearby that had the
Mm-hmm.
bigger boat that everybody was getting on. I remember
Yeah.
seeing there was a bunch of other small boats, just like Cam and I were on,
Mm-hmm.
with people trying to get onto that big boat. And I remember just, it was dark, and everybody was kind of pushing each other and trying to get on this bigger boat. And
Wow.
Cam just grabbed me, and he just put me on the boat. And it was
Mm-hmm.
scary, and I don't understand what's
Yeah.
happening. But we both got on the boat, and we had to sit in the hull of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So because it needed just to look like an ordinary fishing boat. So there were
Yep.
35 of us sitting in the hull of the boat. It was dark, and it was hot, and everybody was getting seasick, but we had to stay in that part so that
Yeah.
we could, once we got further out away from Vietnam, then we could,
Mm-hmm.
come up to the
Mm-hmm.
top. But we had to sit, inside of that, the whole of the boat, and it was hot, and everybody was getting sick. I remember that vividly because I was never on a boat, and so the seasickness made
Yeah.
everybody feel terrible. But once morning came, we got out to the more away from Vietnam. Then it was a little bit safer, but still not
Hmm.
completely safe. So we were able to
Yeah.
relax a little bit more, and we went out further, and all of a sudden we saw this other fishing boat, another Vietnamese fishing boat. Of
Hmm.
course, they knew what we were doing, so they stopped us and they said, "Now, we know you have gold on you, and if you don't give it to us, we're going to turn you into the government." So how that happens is that because Vietnam currency is not going to be good in any other country, so
Hmm.
what people would do would be they would take 24 karat gold rings or bracelets,
Hmm.
mainly rings, and they would take it with them so that wherever they ended up, they could sell it. Because gold, you can, sell it and use it for
Yeah.
money anywhere.
And make money.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we had these 24 karat gold rings, and
Hmm.
my parents had dipped it in black tar, and my hair is black.
Hmm.
They put it in the
Hmm.
back of my hair like this,
Oh,
so it
oh,
kind of hid
wow.
it.
Yeah.
And some people, when they wanted to hide it, they would swallow it. I
Yeah.
mean, so
Yeah.
any way
Yeah.
you can to hide it. So
Yeah.
anyway, but we did give them some gold, and they gave us water. And I remember just, I think I must have I mean, I drank so much water because I was so thirsty.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we on that boat we had one barrel of water and some crackers
Hmm.
to last us for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
So we didn't know how long it was going to take us, if we were going to be out in the ocean for a month. We didn't know.
Oh my
So we
goodness.
had to ration it out. So there were 35 of us on that boat, and we had a barrel of water. So every day we would get three little, probably like communion cups that that
Yeah.
you would have, probably three of those a day, to drink,
Oh,
and we would just have.
oh my word.
So we, you know, I think
Yeah.
in America, rarely is it, probably to truly be hungry is a rare
Hmm.
thing here. But
Yeah.
we were thirsty and we were hungry because we just
Yeah.
didn't have much to eat.
Yeah.
So we were just on the ocean, and thankfully the weather was calm, and
Yeah.
I remember just looking out, and all I could
Mm.
see was a straight line. But the sea was so calm. It looked just like glass. And I remember seeing the little dolphins, because by then
Mm.
we were able to get to the on top of the boat. So we could then, because we were
Yeah.
away from Vietnam enough. So we would, but then we were able to relax. So we got on top of the out of the hull of the boat, and we were able to just kind of be see the ocean and
Hmm.
stuff. But it was just, you can imagine the Indian Ocean being so vast, and this little boat. I mean, you've been on a cruise ship,
Wow.
even a big old
Yeah.
cruise ship like that
Yeah.
looks tiny, in a
Yeah.
big ocean like that. But just imagine a rickety wooden boat. So
Wow.
we were out in the ocean, and I remember thinking, I'm never going to see my mom again. I mean, that was the one thought I remember thinking
Yeah.
that. But I was a child, so
Hmm.
I didn't really, I wasn't
Yeah.
understanding everything. But the dangers of being capsized. A lot
Hmm.
of boats got lost.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was at that time that there were Thai pirates, and they knew that all these Vietnamese boat
Yeah.
people were escaping. So they knew,
Yeah.
so they would prey on these people. And
Hmm.
when if you, if a Thai pirate ship caught you, they would kill you. They would
Yeah.
rape the women. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
that was probably
It's
the most
brutal.
fearful thing
Yeah.
for a Vietnamese boat. And
Mm.
and, and so I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No
I was
idea.
just afraid of the sharks. So in my little innocent 8-year-old mind, it was a blessing because I
Yeah.
didn't understand all the dangers.
Yeah.
But we were out in the ocean probably for about 7 days, just kind of wondering. And what you do is you would just, anytime you see another boat, an airplane, or anything, you just wait for help. And
Mm.
that was so you were praying and hoping that you would run into another boat, or or like an airplane
Wow.
help you. That was your
Yeah.
hope. And so we, after about 7 days, we didn't really see anybody. So we were getting very scared because, um, you know, we were running out of food. But
Oh
um,
my goodness.
so for on the seventh day, we saw this boat that was it was a big commercial boat, and we got all excited because we saw someone. So, but as we got closer, we realized we thought it was Thai pirates. So we went an opposite direction because we
Yeah.
thought we were. But the captain made this friendly gesture, and so we knew that it wasn't. So we turned back around and went towards them. And I don't know if the people on the boat knew where we were, like the people in our boat. I was a child, so I don't know what was happening, but I don't even know if they knew where we were. But apparently we were near Indonesia. And
Okay.
at that time, a lot of, there were several countries that, the United Nations has set up different refugee camps for the boat people. So there was one in Thailand. I think there was one in Indonesia. So there were several nearby, but we happened to be, I don't know if we were planning on going to Indonesia or we just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So that fishing boat it was an Indonesian fishing boat, and they said, "Oh, we can help you. There is a refugee camp nearby." So we followed them. They actually had a little John boat that they put two of their crewmen in, and then because we had to go through this really kind of narrow passage to get to this camp, and so we followed that little John boat, and they took us to a refugee camp. And at the refugee camp, there were two different areas. The first area was it looked like almost like a warehouse with a bunch of beds in it. And so we got in there. They gave us clothing. They gave us food and water. And then, and in that refugee camp, there were several countries that were willing to take in refugees into the country. And I think Australia was one, France, America, Canada. So there were several countries that were willing to do that. And then wherever you would want to go is where you would kind of do the paperwork to go. So my uncle I think most people wanted to come to America, but Australia and Canada, those are the two countries that took in a lot of refugees too. So my uncle wanted to come to America. And so we did the application for that. And if you have a relative in America, then the agency would try and contact. Their first choice would be to try and contact any relatives you have in America to see if they will sponsor you and kind of take care of you when you first come over here. But if you didn't, then a lot of Catholic agencies would kind of sponsor people. Uncle Cam had a cousin that lived in Panama City, Florida. So they got a hold of her, found her, and she agreed to kind of help us. So so we got approved to did an interview with us, and because they always try to relocate women and children first. So my uncle probably would have had to stay there a lot longer, but because I was a child, I was with him, we were able to get approved pretty quickly. So we ended up staying over there for 14 months. So after you get approved, then you move to the second part of the camp, and that camp you would then learn the language of the country that you're going into.
Oh,
and
wow.
the culture.
Okay.
So they kind of, educate you on the country that you're going to be going to. So overall, it was 14 months that we were there. So once everything was ready, we got on a boat. This time we got on a boat. We went from Indonesia to Singapore. We stayed in Singapore. I don't know where we stayed actually, but we were in Singapore. We stayed there for about a month, and then we took another boat over to Hong Kong, and we stayed there for a few weeks. And then Hong Kong, we flew from Hong Kong to Seattle, Washington, and that was my first time ever on a plane. And I remember it was Delta because they gave you these little wings. But we flew to Seattle. And then Seattle, we were there for about maybe a week. Then Seattle, we flew to Atlanta, Georgia. And then Georgia, we flew to Panama City. And so that Panama City was my first place that I lived in America. So it was, everything was new. I mean, I'd never been in a car. It was just a different country. I didn't know how to speak any English except for what is your name and where are you from? That was the only two phrases that I knew. But we stayed with my uncle's cousin. And I went to school, public school, and and I didn't know how to speak the language, and people all the time ask me, how do you, how did you learn how to speak English? Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, your husband's a teacher. You
Yeah.
know that little kids pick up things so
So
quick.
fast.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
they do.
I came over here and I went into fourth grade. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to speak any English, but there was a tutor on the side that helped
Mm-hmm.
me in the same classroom. And I don't know, I don't even remember the process, but I
Yeah.
just picked up the language. And so
Yeah.
I just
You
learned
just
English. So,
learned it.
hmm and so I
Wow.
was living with my uncle at the time. And then he all of a sudden one day, just, I was Catholic. My family's Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So he had me taking me
Mm-hmm.
to a Vietnamese Catholic church. And all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
one day he just took me to this American Baptist church. And
Hmm.
I don't even know why. But he
Yeah.
took me to this American Baptist church, and I went into Mrs. Rhodes' fourth grade girls Sunday school class. Her name was Joy, and
Mm-hmm.
her husband was Glenn. So it's Glenn and Joy Rhodes. They have two kids. So Sandra is uh, she's actually older than my Vietnamese mom, and Kenny,
Mm-hmm.
and they were both out of the house. And so my parents thought they were empty nesters. So
Yeah.
because they were done raising kids, and then the Lord brings this little girl into their life. But she heard my story, and of course we
Mm-hmm.
know everything happens because the
Yeah.
Lord,
Mm-hmm.
had it that way. But she just heard my story and just kind of just felt, I guess she felt, I don't know, the Lord just really impressed on their heart to just, I, they
Yeah.
just, they started visiting me because, whenever you have a
Mm-hmm.
new kid coming to you go and
Yeah.
visit them in their home.
Yeah.
So I was living in the projects at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she and her husband would come to the projects and they would visit me and they would
Mm-hmm.
call me. And so it got to be like every week they would call me and check on me. Um, and then they they asked Cam, can she come stay with us on the weekend so that she can go to church with us? So it got to be like every weekend I
Yeah.
was doing that. And it
Yeah.
was, Cam, can she come and stay with us Wednesday nights because
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday night church. He was like, okay. So he was in the picture the whole time, but
Yeah.
I was started just little by little, just
Mm-hmm.
started to spend more and more time with them.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like the Lord said, do you want to adopt this kid? It was just
Right.
a
It's
gradual thing where
different.
they kind of
Yeah.
wanted to. Eventually, we got closer and
Mm-hmm.
closer. And then one summer he had to go fish. He had to go to Louisiana to do for the summer to make some money
Mm-hmm.
on fishing boats. So he asked my parents, would you mind keeping her for the summer?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they had been praying all this time that he would just let
Oh,
them,
wow.
because he's a single man and he
Yeah.
was living with roommates, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
this little girl, so it
Yeah.
just was not a good environment. But
Yeah.
they had been praying, and so of course that was an answer. So he asked them if they would take care of me for the summer. Of course they said yes. And so that whole summer I lived with
Mm-hmm.
them. And so that's what started me living with them kind of full time.
Yeah.
From that
Yeah.
point on, I was visiting camp and living with my
Yeah.
parents. But
Yeah.
so I was 9. And I was just at the age where a little girl needed a mom and dad. I
Yeah.
hadn't,
Yeah.
I was growing up and I just needed a mom in my life to show me
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
because my Uncle Cam would not have known what to do because
Right.
he's a single man.
Yeah.
And it's just, just a little girl
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be living with the,
Yeah.
other men, so
Right.
it's just the Lord just brought them into my life at a perfect time when
Wow. Yeah.
I needed, a mom and a dad. So
Yeah.
it was under my parents that I became a Christian. My mom and dad
Mm-hmm.
moved me to the Lord, and they,
Wow.
their life would have gone on fine, but
Yeah.
man, my life had I not met them would have
Yeah.
been totally different. I don't know.
Yeah.
I often think I probably would have been, who knows? It's
Yeah.
just meeting them
Right.
and the difference that they made in my life was,
Yeah.
they taught me everything that I knew about the Bible, and how I am is because of
Mm-hmm.
they're raising me. So
Yeah.
I tell them all the time, I don't know what my life would have been like had the Lord not brought you into
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
life. But then they also tell me, well, we don't know what it would be like to not have you in our
Yeah.
life. So I
Yeah.
often think I'm the one that gets the blessing, but they tell me, no, you are a blessing
Mm-hmm.
to us, you know. And so, but they raised
Wow.
me. I couldn't have asked for a better Christian home. So
Mm.
my dad is actually still alive. He is
Mm-hmm.
93. He lives in
Oh,
Knoxville.
wow.
My mom passed away about 8 years ago,
Mm.
but he lives in
Mm-hmm.
Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, my parents, talk about making a difference in a child's life. I
Yeah.
mean, my life
Yeah.
is how it is because of
Yeah.
my parents and their
Yeah.
teaching me. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. You just never know how the Lord will like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know they were going to be raising a, eight,
No,
9-year-old girl
wasn't part of their
at,
plan.
at the age of
Yeah.
50 something when they thought they were done. Um,
Wow.
so, so all this time they met me when I was 9 and they raised me from to now,
Mm-hmm.
they're my mom and dad. They
Yeah.
never legally adopted me because the hope was
Mm-hmm.
that I would sponsor my mom and dad from my
Mm-hmm.
family over from Vietnam to here.
Yeah.
Um, that's why they never adopted me legally.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to Christian school. They were in Christian
Mm-hmm.
ministry their whole life. My dad was
Yeah.
a bookkeeper for a church.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was the secretary for the Christian school. So so their whole life was Christian work. We were
Yeah.
in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. When the church doors
Yeah.
were open, that's where we were. So
Yeah.
um, but so my mom and dad, they raised me. So
Mm-hmm.
from the time of 9 years old to the time I was 18, I really didn't have much communication with my Vietnamese family.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really speak Vietnamese much while I was living with
Right.
my American parents, and even my uncle talked to me in English.
Yeah.
So I kind of forgot the language. And
Yeah.
so from the time I was 9 to the time I was 18, I didn't really speak Vietnamese. So I kind of forgot it.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
when I was 18, I was able to go back to Vietnam to see my family for
Mm.
the first time. So
Wow.
by then, my little brother, who my mom was pregnant with when I left, he was 10 when I first met him.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, so I went over there to visit them, and I
Mm-hmm.
got to find out a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
things that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But every summer after I graduated from high school, I went to Vietnam
Mm-hmm.
and stayed over there for the first time for 3.5 months.
Oh,
And then I came
wow.
and I went to Pensacola Christian College. And my
Mm-hmm.
husband Steve, he was already there, so we
Mm-hmm.
kind of dated. We dated all through college. But every summer while I was
Mm-hmm.
in college, I would go back to Vietnam. And
Oh,
then
wow.
and the funny thing about me speaking Vietnamese is I forgot it. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
went back when I was 18, I had to have an interpreter with me.
Oh, wow.
But you know what? After a month of being there, it started coming back. So it's almost
Oh,
like
wow.
once you learn a language, it's
Mm-hmm.
stored in the back of your brain somewhere.
Yeah.
But after being there for a month, it started coming back. And so I guess you truly never forget a language.
Yeah.
But I can speak Vietnamese now, not fluent. I probably can speak it like someone speaks broken English.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
communicate. I can
Yeah.
communicate. But anyway, so Steve and I got married in 1998 after we were
Mm-hmm.
graduated from Pensacola.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 days after we got married, we went back to Vietnam to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, we were over there for 3.5 weeks. But so Steve got to meet my
Wow.
family.
Yeah.
And then we came back here, started our married life and
Yeah.
job. And I don't know, I guess with kids and being busy, we just never went back.
Yeah.
So the last time I saw my family was in 1998 when I was 22 and a newlywed. In 25 years, we didn't see my family. So I
Oh,
almost
wow.
knew they were there, but kind of lost contact almost. I
Yeah.
really didn't speak the language. So I really kind of forgot it again.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, well, actually, I thought, we need to go back to Vietnam and show the kids
Yeah.
because I have, Lauren she'll be 23
Mm-hmm.
month, and Tyler will be
Yeah.
21, and Matthew will be 19. So
Mm-hmm.
in 2020, I said, okay, we've got to go over there and visit my family. We bought plane tickets and everything. And of course, COVID happened. So we didn't get to go. But last
Yeah.
year, we were able to go in July of last year, our whole
Mm-hmm.
family back to Vietnam. So I
Wow.
left. The last time they saw me, I was 22. And then last year when we went back, Lauren was 22. So
Oh,
it was, so
wow.
that was the first time the kids got to meet their grandparents, and it was a great trip. I mean,
Yeah.
I planned the whole trip out, and I prayed everything with
Hmm.
Jessica. I didn't know how it's going to be, but
Yeah.
we went over there for 2 weeks, and we just had a
Hmm.
wonderful time. We just it was
Mm.
almost like we just never time just it didn't
Yeah.
matter. We just
Yeah.
picked up where we left off. So
Mm.
this summer I'm planning on going back by myself in July
Oh,
because my
wow.
husband Steve, he's got a lot going on at work, so he can't really
Hmm.
go. But I'm going to go by myself, and I'm
Hmm.
going to stay with my family and just
Hmm.
spend time with them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay at their house because last time we stayed at a
Yeah.
hotel. I'm gonna stay
Hmm.
at their house. Mom's gonna cook for me, and I'm just gonna really.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to travel by myself, but it's good that I go because I
Yeah.
think this time I get to spend a lot more time. And I'm planning on finding out all sorts of details and questions about when I was
Yeah.
little. You know, because I don't know my family.
Yeah.
I really don't know my family history. Really,
Right.
I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping this summer to find out a lot of details
Yeah.
that I, that I have always wondered about.
Yeah.
And I can speak the
Yeah.
language since I've gotten back
Hmm.
from Vietnam from this last summer. I've been talking more
Right.
with my brothers and sisters. So we
Hmm.
definitely have, we're definitely keeping in contact a lot better now.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
think I will ever go that long again without seeing my
Yeah.
family. And also
Yeah.
too, my Vietnamese is getting better and better as I speak more
Hmm.
often with my family.
Yeah.
So I think and I've had so many people tell me you need to write a book about,
Oh, I
and
know. I was just sitting here like,
yeah,
when are you going to write that
and
book? Because that is an amazing,
you know,
amazing
the
story.
older I get, the more I think I really do need to
Yeah.
because I'm not going to always remember everything. You know, the older I
Hmm.
get, I'm going to
Yeah.
forget little details.
Hmm.
And so I want to go this summer to Vietnam and
Hmm.
just have tons of questions answered for
Yeah.
me. And maybe when I get back, I will work on a book. I just need, I
Oh,
do. If not for
yeah.
anybody else, it's for my kids. You know,
Yeah.
I want them
Yeah.
to have something
Yeah.
to, so that is my goal. That is my goal
Wow.
to write it all down.
Hmm.
But the Lord has. I mean, I am what in Vietnam they would call lucky,
Yeah.
but I know it's not luck. It's the Lord.
Hmm.
He, nothing happens by
Yeah.
luck.
He
And
preserved your
yeah, yeah,
life through so many things. I mean, like the
hmm
camp, the boat, the
hmm
second boat, like
yeah,
there's so many places in your
yeah.
story where it could have
And
ended so
I mean,
differently, you
of
know?
all the homes I could have gone
Yeah.
into,
Right.
the Lord put me in like the most wonderful Christian home that you could ask for.
Yeah.
And then and then now I'm married to a wonderful Christian man. It's just, I mean,
Yeah.
I've just been blessed my whole life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't know. So I don't, when people ask me to give my testimony,
Hmm.
I have to say yes because, I want to share what the
Mm.
Lord's done. And so,
Yeah.
one of my prayer requests is that my family, they are Catholic, and they
Hmm.
don't know the Lord. And so I'm hoping
Yeah.
that, as my Vietnamese gets better, that I
Hmm.
can witness to them.
Yeah.
But they're all over there. My mom and dad and my two brothers and two sisters and all my
Wow.
nieces and nephews, they're all over there. So I'm the
Hmm.
only one over here,
Yeah.
but the Lord's been so good to me, and
Yeah.
I, I don't know. Sometimes I look
Hmm.
back at my life and I think that doesn't seem like my life. It just the older I get, the more I realize how unique
Yeah.
my life is, just from
Yeah.
what the Lord has brought me through.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's my testimony.
Wow. Wow. Well, Lynn, I feel like I have so many
Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
That's an incredible, incredible story of your life. Thank you for sharing it. If there's anyone watching, I know there's several families that I know of that are in the process of adoption or they have children in their home that they are. There's different countries that have different
Mm-hmm.
things where they'll come here for a short time
Mm-hmm.
and then you adopt in that process. So if they have a child in their home from another country, is there any particular thing that you would say to help them feel welcome or to help them include them that you feel like would be good for them to know just from a child's perspective?
For me, I mean, I always felt like, I mean, I guess for me as a child, I always felt like, oh, I never want to disappoint my my mom and
Mm.
dad, because I never want them to
Yeah.
regret taking me in. You know,
Mm.
I think for a
Yeah.
child
Mm.
being adopted, you always feel that pressure. I don't want them to ever regret taking me
Yeah.
in, you know, and so
Yeah.
that's pressure on child. But that's some.
Yeah.
But my parents, they, you know, it's funny. They sometimes truly forget that I am
Yeah.
not. They didn't give birth to me. He'll say, "Oh,
Right.
you got that from me," and I'm like, you know, there's no blood relation. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, a
Mm.
child that is from, you know, that is being adopted, you
Hmm.
are the ones that are going to be making a difference in their life, you know.
Yeah.
And so like I said, you
Mm.
know, my family, my mom and dad, they made all the difference in my life.
Yeah.
And I am who I am because of their Christian upbringing and just the love,
Wow.
you know, their
Yeah.
love for the Lord, and they showed it to me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what a difference! What a difference
Yeah.
a parents can make in a child's life.
Yeah.
You know, because
Yeah.
most of the time when they're being adopted, there's struggles. You know,
Hmm.
you know, that's the reason why they're not with. That's the situation
Yeah.
they're in. It's already
Right.
hard,
Right.
and so you can make a difference in this child's life by
Hmm.
how you raise, how you love them.
Hmm.
And but like I said, you know, I know for me it was always, I never wanted to do anything wrong. I mean, no, they love me, and I obviously
Yeah.
did, you know.
Right.
I was not a perfect child, but I do remember just thinking, I don't ever want to disappoint my mom and dad, you know, because they,
Mm.
and them taking me in. So
Yeah.
but kids do really know. I think, not that I appreciated my parents any more than my brothers
Yeah.
and sisters, but I do. I really, because they
Hmm.
didn't have to take me in. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so,
Yeah.
but I love my parents. My mom's in heaven. But my
Yeah.
dad, he's just a wonderful man, and you
Mm.
know, I just really, truly, I
Yeah.
could not, if I could be the kind of parents that they were to me, to my
Yeah.
kids, it would be wonderful. But they're just wonderful Christian people. So,
Wow.
yep.
Wow. Well, Lynn, that is, I don't know what I was expecting your story to be, but that is not at all what I was expecting. It was so much more. So thank you for sharing it, especially at 9 o'clock at night when you would probably be in your pajamas watching your favorite
I'm
Netflix
a
show
night
right now. So
gal,
thank
so
you for
this is early.
sharing.
It's not a problem.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And if anyone, would you mind if anyone's watching that has questions about adoption or has questions about raising a child from another country, would you mind if they reached out to
Yeah,
you?
I don't mind at all. I mean, I would
Awesome.
be glad to, you know, answer any questions, or even
Yeah.
if whatever questions you have, even about my journey or adoption
Yeah.
or anything. I would be glad to, you know, to answer any of that. So,
Awesome.
but
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on, and I hope you have a great night. And we need to get together soon
okay,
and make more of those
yes,
Vietnamese rolls
yes,
because I love them and I we talk about them all the time. So we need
yeah,
to get together again soon and make those
of
again.
course. I always love getting together with friends. So yes,
Hmm.
we will definitely have to plan that. So
Awesome. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for hopping on. Have a great night.
thank you. Good night.